So you compare the next one to that one. So that is pretty easy. So you don't necessarily need to have methanol or DI water, or you can use seawater as well, because it depends on what you shall compare to, what type of samples you shall do. So what we can see with our eyes. Oh, you have it. Perfect, thank you. Will you stop, switch it on? Yeah, okay.
Only pointing.
I mentioned this is what you can see with your open eyes. Everything that you can see here is in this small spectrum from 400 to 700. That is also where the hydrocarbons, the chlorides, the color, the permanganate tests are, because you can see them. What is there? So when we are testing with this instrument, using these sample cells, we are testing the visual spectrum. There is a few things, and I will give you hints, because after the end of the day, we will run what we call a Mentimeter questionnaire. And this Mentimeter questionnaire is for, like, fleet management have a unique Hong Kong number of their employees, and you have your names, so it's easy for us to pick up which one has been sleeping and which one has been awake. Because the questions is easy, it's not difficult, but this is a hint. For the visual spectrum, we are using the big cell. This is the big cell, 40 millimeter, clear glass. Just the same glass as you have here, nothing different.
Clear glass.
This one
10
is quartz glass.
Quartz glass.
This one is for the UV spectrum. And that is where makes this instrument so fantastic. Because with this one, we can see, just like you have your own fingerprint, we can recognize you have your own gene. So if you go and do something you should not do, the police can catch you because of your gene tests. Methanol has its own fingerprint. Benzene, xylene, any aromatics, everybody have their own fingerprint. So this fingerprint is visual on the form that you could see that came from the MML. That's what the master sent me. You can see it clearly if there is anything there that is not supposed to be there. The ultraviolet is there. That is from here, you can say from 400 and up. Is it? I said that the instrument was doing something very easily. It was just checking the difference between two samples. So when you zero set the instrument, you are doing that with a liquid that we use. If you are testing a wall wash, you are using methanol or DI water. If you are using the washing water analysis, you will use the medium that you are cleaning with. This is also a hint. If you are using hot seawater, you zero set the instrument with hot seawater. If you are cleaning in a port with dirty harbor water, you are zero setting the instrument with dirty harbor water, because you want to see the difference between. We will come closer to that on the washing water analysis that we will do. The instrument have a light source. It sends it through what we call a wavelength selector. You don't need to worry about that, because it is when you are programming, when you are pushing the buttons here, then you are also choosing the wavelength selector. So it is not necessary for you to learn so much about this. So we just give you a small idea of how it's functioning. So the light goes through the cell, and the instrument knows how much light it sends in. And then it determines what comes out and what is missing. So if there has been any kind of absorption of light in this cell, then it shows up on a graph, or it gives you a number. It depends on what program you are in. If you are in the UV program, then it will give you a graph, always a graph, never a number. But when you are on the visual spectrum, you will get a number. So what I used to do before was to call the captain and ask, how is your sample? And the captain said, well, it's maybe a little bit hazy, maybe a little bit milky. But that he doesn't need to do anymore. Now he just gives me the numbers, easily. So there is no need for anybody to wonder about of how this is. Clear fact. These numbers we can send to the surveyors. We can send it to the charterers, whoever wants to have it. And the last one that came into this was Shell Chemicals. They said in March that they will start a pilot project. Because the main reason that we do this is to avoid the confined space entries. We don't want people to go down to the cargo tanks. And it is not necessary to go down to the cargo tanks. And that I will show you with the washing water analysis. The basic was, if all the light that you send in to the cell, there is no absorption, it is 100% transmission, and that means that the number that you get out is 0, or the graph is flat. And that is basically what we want to have. When you have 0 absorbance, that means that your wall wash is as good as the medium that you are using. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Each test works on a different wavelength, but you don't need to worry about it. The numbers here on the instrument, as soon as you are using these numbers, you tell the instrument what wavelength it should look at. You give her a specific number, nothing. But on the UV scan, it goes the full range. These cells they are pretty, what shall I say, sensitive. It is glass, and everybody knows that glass can break. And glass can get scratches. So we say that you shall always use the same cell when you are making the zero setting of the instrument and when you do the wall wash or the washing water analysis. You have normally spare cells, but you never use them unless that you have broken the cell. But what you look, especially on the UV scan, is that it's extremely sensitive. This instrument here is giving you a very correct result, but it's very sensitive. So therefore it is important that when you look at the leaflet that you have here, there is a lot of good hints. There is a lot of good user manuals that is following with the instrument. User manuals is on board all of the Hansa fleet. So it's very important that you really study this, and then you have made sure that the cells is clean, and at the same time we should not for having some kind of rubber or anything, because you have the vibrations from the engine is not necessarily making the tests better. So therefore we say that you should try to have, if you are running on imbalanced or whatever, you should have a soft pad under the instrument so it doesn't get these small shocks. This is hints that you maybe get back on the questionnaire later on. So keep it in mind. Quick running through visible region around 350 to 700. That is what you can see with your own eyes. That's when you were looking at television, when you were looking at your wife or whatever. That's there. Between 350 meters. The hydrocarbon test is a 400, alpha color 455, permanganate fade time is 530, and chlorides is 420. But again, as I said, it's not necessary for you to remember this, because when you choose the program on the instrument, you tell she knows exactly which one of these she shall use. For this is visible spectrum. Remember what you can see with your own eyes, same as with you. When you were mixing your wall wash, then you shall use the ordinary glass, the big 40 millimeter glass set. It's even marked with 6G. I don't know why, but it is even so. So we normally use the spectrometer for detection of contaminants. That is not normal for the human eyes. But you can also test an hazy, because sometimes it's very important that even though that you see that this tank is going to fail, but somebody said there's no need to use the spectrometer because you can see it fails. Yes, that's correct. But it can be good to know where you are. Because the next round you can also get hazy, but you can see if the number have improved from 200 to 100 or whatever. 6G, we said, was the number. You can take a look at it. This is the clear glass cell. And you see the result of the big fat side. That is where you put, because if you put your fingers on the end, then you get, if you're sweating, you will get a finger mark and you need to clean it. Because this finger mark will fail your tank. And that is not what we wanted. We want to have the clear result, regardless whether it's good or bad. That is what we want to have. And also, one thing more to say is that it is facing left, this 6G. That is the reason for that, is that you shall be sure that this samples is handled the same way. So that means that you should put the cell the same way. It doesn't necessarily become anything wrong if you do, but if you twist them around, it's not that big deal. But again, especially on some of these tests that we do on the color, which is extremely sensitive, then it's much more important. All of the Hansa vessels have received a training stick from me. This training stick contains also a clear description of the colors. There is a lot of color scales going on, and both the STS and LS, ASTM, everybody is different. But what we say that on the alpha colors is that a color of 15, that is what you can see with your open eyes. Then you can see, if you have a good color vision, you can see color 15. Color 10, you can see. You have extremely good vision if you can see color 10. It normally says that we go from 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Caustic soda, for example, is 25. The more intense the yellow color is, the more absorption of the light you get, and you will increase your number up. So most of these charters that is having the color spec, as they call it, they will give you a number. And this number is what you report back on the forms that we have. Hydrocarbon test. Hydrocarbon test that you do is a wall wash test, but you run the instrument. So instead of that you are sitting there alone with your doubts, you give the doubts to me, and you send the numbers to me, and I will go back to you and tell you if this is okay or not. And that is how this learning goes on. When you have done this one time, then you know it. I say that a reading of 2 pass the test. There is no need to clean anymore, because when this instrument says 2, you cannot see anything in with your eyes. You just stand there with your light. Samples having a reading greater than 2, we say this procedure failed the test. But if you have 3, don't start any new cleaning. You are good to go. Most of these hydrocarbon tests is done by you on tanks that is not freshwater washed. Yeah? That's what you do, eh? Correct? You clean the seawater, then you dry, and then you take a sample.
Too much.
And if they are okay, then you freshwater wash. That's good practice. We used to say that it is ppm that you read on the instrument. It is not ppm. It is what they call Fermi Formacy Turbidity Units, FTU. But if you ask me, what is the difference? I have no clue. Because whenever you choose, you can choose on the instrument, but it always starts up with the FTU. There is no difference. So don't worry about it. In the visual region, you need to have something that tells you, because if you mix methanol with benzene, you don't see anything, because both are the same color. They mix it together. So, what you need to do, and this is something that you can most probably have never heard. When you are taking a wall wash, how many have taken a wall wash here? Come on. Don't be shy. You're chemical tanker people, all of you, huh? Correct? You're chemical tanker people, but you don't take wall washes. You have? Okay, so you have? Okay, one time more. Let me see. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Wall wash, just to give you a quick, it is described in this booklet that you all have received, eh? The procedures, how to do the wall washes. Because wall washes is that when you are doing, you are taking a solvent, you pour it on the bulkhead, and let it flow down, and you grab it. And then you take it with you up, and for tests in the visual light range, you need to have a reagent in order to find out whether there is contaminants or not. Except for color. Color you can do directly on the instrument. For hydrocarbons, you need to wall wash the tank with methanol, and then you add DI water. And why do you do that? The DI water is mixing very easily with methanol. So if you have another contaminant, like oil for example, that also mixes with methanol, then the water, which the methanol like better, the water will force the oil out from the methanol, and it shows up like a bluish shadow on your wall wash. You know that? That's what you see. But the reason is that the water is forcing the contaminant out. So therefore it is very important to note that some of these contaminants mixes with water and methanol. And worst cargo is MTBE. You cannot, there is no use to wall wash a tank after MTBE. So if you have been doing that, you have been fooling yourself. So for water miscibility hydrocarbon test, you use DI water. Permanganate fade time test, you are using potassium permanganate. And chloride test, you are using
Silver nitrate.
silver nitrate. Acid. Very quick reporting these results is now becoming extremely easy because I said that you get the curve of program 6 and you get the numbers on the visual. This is how it looks like when it comes out on the display. What we shall learn today is to go a little bit a step further is and try to set up the instrument in such a way that you can transfer this into the PC that you have down in the control room. And this PC, you make this, you see the graphs that I get from Eva Berger today, he transfer everything in to the Excel form and send it. Most of the charters now, like Dow Chemicals, Shell, as I said, we have Total, we have Philips, Huntsman, Sassoon. This is what they want to see. But many of these charters, they are thinking that, yeah, but everybody can send something like that. So I said that, okay, you are looking for reliable partners. But the washing water analyzer that also show them that you have actually cleaned the tanks. Because, believe me or not, some of the charters believes that if they accept to accept our washing water analyzers, they think that we will cheat on them. But it's our responsibility that the tanks is clean. And if we just fake up everything, you will lose your job the day after. So the biggest catch for us, that means me and Guy Johnson, is that Shell are approving this. Because if Shell say jump, everybody jumps. So basically you can say that you don't need to transfer this into the Excel file and send it to me. You can just print it on, and we have the form 42 that we are using. Just print the 0, okay? 0, fine. That's what you report. But the reason why we want to have it transferred into the computer is that you save each and every voyage in your computer. So you have the cleaning results. So if anybody come later on and try to kick your ass, you have this as a defense. The same you also have on when you are in restricted areas, special areas, discharging Marpol Annex 1. At one point, you have to start what we call the commercial wash. The Annex 1 wash starts always to slop tanks. And the Marpol says only that the master has to verify that the tank is oil-free. This instrument helps you to do that. And when I have been asking sire inspectors, they say yes. But you don't get it in writing. But if you can prove this, that's fine. This is the best. So that is just another advantage there is. Again, no. Yeah. We jump over to the UV spectrum. I've cut down this some. So we are looking at the UV spectrum. How is it with regards to coffee and everything? Have you got yourself a cup of coffee?
Yes, sir.
So that's okay. Very good. Cinnamon rolls, were they good? I ordered especially cinnamon rolls for you. Okay, UV spectrum. I said that, okay, shall we take 5 minutes? This is so everybody go and have a pee or whatever.